Hello, this is Ms. DB, and in this video we are going to review how to do some of the problems from your Chapter 2, Section 4 worksheet. This is on writing biconditional statements. So a biconditional statement is when you have a conditional statement with its converse. So it's an if and only if. The words if and only if will be in the middle of each of these biconditional statements. Here's an example. The sides of a triangle are congruent if and only if the angles are congruent. That is putting two things together. The conditional, if the sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles are congruent, and the converse of that, if the angles are congruent, then the sides are congruent. If you put both of those together, you get the biconditional statement, which works both ways. It doesn't matter which part you put first. The sides of a triangle are congruent if and only if the angles are congruent, or you could start with the angles of a triangle are congruent if and only if the sides are congruent. It would work either way. Biconditional statements can work either way. So let's look at some examples right away. You're going to start your problems. Lindsay will take photos for the yearbook if and only if, so it's a biconditional, she doesn't play soccer. So for the conditional, you're going to write exactly this with an if and a then statement in it. So I'm just going to copy it to save myself some time and paste. But I'm going to start with if, and then let's see what we need to do next. If Lindsay will take photos for the yearbook, then, oops, I got to take that if out too. Then she doesn't play soccer. Now we'll just see if that makes sense. If Lindsay will take photos for the yearbook, then she doesn't play soccer. That makes total sense. Now the converse of that, we have to start with if again, because the converse of a conditional statement is also a conditional statement. It has an if-then in it, but we start with the conclusion comes first. If, I'm going to write Lindsay's name again, because otherwise it sounds weird if we just say she. If Lindsay doesn't play soccer, then she will take photos for the yearbook, and so on. So those are the two statements that you can write from the biconditional statement. Lindsay will take photos for the yearbook if and only if she doesn't play soccer. So that's what you do for numbers 1, 2, and 3. You will turn the biconditional statement into and number 4 too, into a conditional and a converse. All of them will start with if, and they will have a then in the middle. And then for the converse, you will just flip-flop the way you wrote your sentence the first time. So in number 2, if you wrote, if Padma can paint the entire living room, then she has enough paint. That's your conditional. Then the converse of that would be, if Padma has enough paint, then she can paint the entire living room. So both of these should work, and you will start each one with an if, and then in the middle of each one, you will put a then. So don't forget that. These are if-then statements, and they will each need an if-then. The converse, of course, is when you switch the hypothesis and the conclusion around. So when you decide what your hypothesis will be, then that is the first part of the conditional statement, and then after that will be the conclusion, which will go here. And then for the converse, you just switch those two parts around. Let's look at, we'll just do another one. Let's look at number 5. We'll just practice. This is going the other way. They're giving us a conditional statement, and we have to write the converse and the biconditional. So this is good practice. So I'm going to start by highlighting or underlining the hypothesis. I'll underline this with a dashed line, and then I'm going to underline the conclusion with a solid line so that I don't mess up when I write the converse. So the converse is when you still start with an if, and then after the if you put the conclusion from your previous statement. So if each song cost 99 cents, and then we need the then, and then you put your hypothesis. You can download 6 songs for, where's my $sign now? 5. Ah, I deleted something. There we go. 6 songs for $5.94. Now the biconditional, we do not start a biconditional with the word if. Do not start a biconditional with the word if. We just start typing. We say you can download 6 songs for $5.94. And there's no then in the middle either. We have to have the words if and only if in the middle. You can download 6 songs for $5.94 if and only if, there's the if and only if, each song costs 99 cents. Now, would it be wrong to have each song costs 99 cents if and only if you can download 6 songs for $5.94? It wouldn't be wrong. It just sounds kind of clunky. This just sounds better. So when you write the biconditional, do not put the word if at the beginning. Do not put then in the middle. In the middle is the if and only if. Now, did I write this at the top? Sometimes you will see a shortcut for if and only if. I don't think I told you what it was. And sometimes you'll see me write it as IFF is a shortcut for if and only if. Let's do one more of these. Let's do number 8. And it's okay to add or take away a word to make the sentence sound right, but you don't want to change the meaning at all. So first we're just going to do the converse. So the hypothesis of number 8 is 2 segments have the same length. So I'm going to underline that with a dash. And they are congruent, meaning the angles are congruent. That's the words we might have to add. That's our conclusion. So for a converse, that does have an if at the beginning and a then in the middle. A converse is an if-then sentence. But we're going to put the conclusion first. I don't want to start with they. That's a pronoun. We need to start with what word they is. So if 2 angles are congruent, that's our conclusion. Then, I need the then, they have the same length. So I did switch the 2 segments and the they around because that way our sentence makes more sense. They have length. They have the same length. Okay? Now I need to write the biconditional. Now, do biconditionals start with the word if? No, they do not. Biconditional sentences, you just start typing using your original conditional statement as a guide. So I will start with 2 segments. Do not start with the word if. 2 segments have the same length. And do not put a then. If and only if you want to use IFF, you can. If and only if they are congruent. So that is an if and only if sentence. It's called a biconditional, and it combines both the conditional and the converse together. A biconditional statement is false if either one, either the conditional or its converse, are false. So we're going to determine whether these are true or false. If it's false, you have to give a counterexample. And I wrote you do not have to write the conditional or the converse here, but you should think about what they would be. So number 9 says students can take college classes if and only if they have a high school diploma. So the conditional sentence, which I don't have to write, would be if students take college classes, then they have a high school diploma. That's the conditional. Now, you didn't have to write that. You just need to think about it. Is that true or not? Well, we have students in this class who are taking college classes at the same time that they're in high school. It's called PSEO, Post-Secondary Enrollment Option. Some schools also offer college in the schools classes where they're taking a college class right in their high school and getting dual credit. They're getting high school credit and college credit for it. So I don't even need to write the converse or even really think much about the converse because this is going to be false because of, and then you can say whether college in the schools, or even AP classes, you can get college credit for that too, or PSEO, post-secondary enrollment students. So you can take college credit. So that's what a counterexample is. It's when you have one example that would make this be false. Let's look at another one. An angle in a triangle measures 90 degrees if and only if the triangle is a right triangle. Well, let's think about that. The conditional statement would be if an angle in a triangle measures 90 degrees, then the triangle is a right triangle. That's true. The converse would be if you have a right triangle, then you have an angle that's 90 degrees. That's true as well. So number 10 is you're just going to have to type true for this one. You don't have to type anything else. You don't have to find a counterexample because this is the definition of a right triangle. A definition is true both ways. It's a biconditional. And if it's true by definition, then you won't be able to find a counterexample because it's always going to be true. And I don't usually do this many problems from your worksheet, but let's look at 11 because I've had a lot of students in the past get this wrong. Okay, the conditional statement, I'm going to write both of these out. The conditional statement would be if A equals 4 and B equals 3, then AB equals 12. Is this true or false? If A equals 4 and B equals 3, then A times B equals 12. This is true. Okay. Let's look at the converse of it and see if that's true too. The converse, you have to switch the hypothesis and conclusion around. So if AB equals 12, then A equals 4 and B equals 3. Is that necessarily true? If AB is 12, then A equals 4 and B equals 3. Well, if AB equals 12, A times B equals 12, couldn't I have 1 times 12 for A and B? Or I could have 2 times 6. That equals 12 too. And there's even other combinations if you want to include decimals or fractions or negatives. Could equal A and B. So your counterexample is just A equals 1, B equals 12, or A equals 2, B equals 6. So there's lots of counterexamples for this one. You just need to pick one that would make this false. That's what a counterexample is. And if it's a definition or always true, then you just write true. And then in the next section, we're going to talk more about definitions. Definitions can be written as biconditionals. A definition is a statement that describes a mathematical object and can be written as a true biconditional. So a good precise definition can be used forwards or backwards. Each should have the words if and only if in the middle. So these are true statements, true definitions. We're not going to write true or false. We're going to rewrite each of these as a biconditional. So none of them will start with if. These are biconditionals, but they will all have the words if and only if in the middle. So the first one's a little tricky. A triangle is a three-sided polygon. How do we start this? Do we say a triangle if and only if? No, that doesn't make sense. Let's start with a polygon. Because when we're defining something, we might want to start with the broad term of it first. So a polygon is a triangle, and then we need the words if and only if. If, I'm going to have to capitalize them so you don't miss them. If and only if it has 3 sides. Now this is not exactly the way they wrote the first part. A triangle is a three-sided polygon, but it was pretty tricky to take that and turn it into a biconditional. Let's see if we change the meaning at all. A polygon is a triangle if and only if it has 3 sides. A triangle is a three-sided polygon. We have the same meaning here, but now we have it written better as a biconditional, which means that we could have wrote, if we could have started this, a polygon has 3 sides if and only if it is a triangle. That would work that way too. So a good definition should work either way, and I think this one works either way. I'm not going to do number 14 for you, but I'm going to start it. And I would start this with the words two coplanar lines. And then I would say are, and then you're going to pick out what are we defining here? And then don't forget to put your if and only if, and then you will finish this with the rest of the statement. So two coplanar lines are what, if and only if, and then finish that up. And number 15 too, I'm just going to give you a little hint on this one. I'm going to go to the next page here. A circle is a set of all points in a plane that are fixed distance from a center. So I'm going to start this one with the set of all points in a plane is a circle if and only if, spell that right, and then you'll finish it up with the rest of the information that's there. And then the last one, an isosceles triangle has at least two congruent sides. I'll let you do this one on your own, but you might want to start with something like a triangle is isosceles if and only if it has, and then finish it up from there. So start with a triangle, and then you're going to define it after that. And then don't forget the if and only if, and then you'll finish it up after that. So that should give you some help on writing your biconditional statements, which can be a little bit tricky as we're doing a lot of word usage in this section. All right, remember, you can always ask for help if you need it. I'm in my office hours and in the ASC lots of times, and you can email me anytime and set up a meeting for a better time for you if that doesn't work. Thanks a lot and have a wonderful day.